Hey, hey, hey. Welcome, friends. I love that.
That's so good.
Thank you, the great Mark D with the C for that one. Hello, my friends. Welcome to a special edition, Sunday edition of Clobberin Times. Celebrating the king of comics, of course, the what would have been 105, you know, and I would can think of no one I would rather celebrate it with than my wonderful, dear, beautiful friend, Purple Valkyrie. Thank you so much for being here with me, love.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on the membership. So I've been having a lot of fun playing with the emojis.
They're irresistible. I love them. They fit in so well with me. They're I guess that everyone's family can probably say the same thing. They just kind of reflect the host, I suppose, which makes sense, right? So I love it. I love them.
I do too, and you've been doing incredible work this past month celebrating
Oh,
Kirby, and
thank you.
especially on Twitter. I saw some of the tweets that you've been putting out and the incredible artwork that you've been sharing.
Oh,
It's
thanks.
it's a lot to remember somebody, especially somebody who had such a huge influence as Kirby did.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that. It really is. It's important. And I wrote this a while back, and I just made a new one because it didn't fit the old one. It's crap, but I like it anyway. Happy birthday to the King of Comics. Thanks, Jack, for all the fantastic things you gave us, for all the incredible worlds you show us. You showed us for all the astonishing tales you told us, for all the uncanny ideas you beguiled us, and all the spectacular heroes who inspired us. You did so much; it's just incalculable. One little celebration is nothing, but I love that, man. And I always people probably get sick of hearing it, but the two greatest geek experiences of my life were meeting and hanging out with him and his wonderful wife Roz. So
Yes, and I've heard you talk about it in the past and say what an incredible guy he was. And I know sometimes they say don't meet your heroes, but it seems with Jack Kirby that was not the case.
yes, that was definitely not the case. He was. That's a horrible picture. I got to get it fixed one day. It was just. It was at both times, and of course, I bought some original art from him, which I still have. A piece, well, two pieces. One I gave to my friend Claude. I bought this piece from him. That's from Sandman #5,
That's
the
incredible.
from the mid '70s. This series, the short-lived Sandman series at DC, and I'm of the belief not enough people celebrate him. His fans do, but Stan's never going to be short of that. Stan is immortalized in all those MCU movies and all those cameos and all that
Hmm.
crap. When in many every time you showed Stan and it's fine, he was alive and Jack wasn't, but every time you did it, Jack should have been there represented in every single one of those scenes.
Yes, and I think it's fair to say that they kind of went out of their way to really not acknowledge how much of an
Absolutely.
influence Kirby had. And this is not to take anything away from Stan. I like Stanley, I
That's
really
my
do. But
job taking away from Stan. So go
exactly,
ahead.
yeah, that Clubby's got that cornered.
Go ahead.
But you talk about the characters, you talk about the stories that he wrote and the influence that he had on what generations of people, and I really don't think he got the recognition, especially in his later years, that he deserved.
Absolutely. And on his back on his 100th, which would have been his 100th birthday, a lot of people did a little bit more than usual, and there were a lot of people who came out. And what was interesting to me is not just comic book people, celebrities. I don't have them all in front of me now. I remember making a big to do about it back then. From that you would know of. I mean, well, Frank Zappa was one of them. There are a couple other
Hmm.
people from other who did not even work in comics. They talked about what an influence his work was on them, and yet they worked in completely other just artistic media.
Yes, and I was just looking at that picture you've got up, and I kind of looked at it briefly while I was looking at the chat, and I thought it was a tattoo, and then I realised it's a shirt.
Yeah, it's a friend of my friend Claude, who pops up in your chat all the time, by the way. I'm
It does.
Claude
It's
Parrish.
great to see
He,
him, but yeah, I did
he
it.
was
I
an
had to do a
airbrush
double
artist.
take.
Oh yeah, he was an airbrush artist, and he did this for the second time we met Jack in 1990 at Atlanta Fantasy Fair.
That is incredible.
And let me say our hellos real quick. I guess we have some friends here. Um,
Yes.
Leah Rose. Oh, it's so lovely to see you, Leah. Thanks for popping in. The great Chris Persia. Thanks for all you do, buddy. He's extraordinary.
Yes, yes. We've got some amazing wrenches, and Chris is most certainly one of them.
Oh
Great to
man,
see you.
the great Canadian wrench, the great Eric Kay, who is of course the bronze surfer. Well, I'm remiss. Yeah, there he is.
There he is.
He's the bronze surfer, and let's see who else is here with us. Classic Comics. Hey man, good to see you there. Thanks for being here. And Gwagnar, what's up, dude? Pleasant Valley Picker, what's up, BC? I hope you're doing well. Good to see you. And does anyone else pop in? Well, we'll acknowledge anyone who rolls in. I hope some do.
Yes, we've got Sid
Salty.
Salty is in as well, and Sid Estewaran.
Oh
I
yeah,
hope I pronounced that correctly. Great to see you guys. Hey.
Hey, yeah, Salty, good to see you, my friend. I try to join you guys whenever I can or watch on reruns because you and Purple do great stuff over there at Salty, Texas. I don't have the link for his channel right now, but and we can get it put in there or something if Chris knows it. He probably does. He knows that he knows the links to all of those. But and Bride Hepburn, hello there, new member of the channel as well. So good to see you all. Like I said, I didn't expect very many people to show up because I'm never on Sundays, but today's Jack's birthday, so I like to do it I do Jack shows throughout the month, as you know, of August, but I want to do a Jack Kirby on his birthday like you and I did last year, Purple.
Yes, we did. I remember.
And I enjoyed that. Was so much fun. You were just amazing. And
I can't believe it's been a year already. Where has this year gone? And I think people were talking about it in the chat. We're almost in September. What the heck?
It's crazy. It's crazy. But I want to go back to this. See, Claude Airbrush, just when we went to this con, he made a pretty cool shirt for himself too. And he airbrushed. I don't have Claude's picture right here. I have to get it. But again, at the first con we met him, I got the Jack Kirby Volume 1 Treasury signed, which there's a signature.
That's a great signature.
From 86, yeah. And then I don't have a copy. I have to dig out my Fantastic Four number 51 that he signed for me, but which of course is this right here, this comic.
Of course. I had a feeling that would be the case.
Yes, I had it signed. Well, Mark and I just reviewed that last week and had a great time reviewing it. But, so when I met Jack, that's actually a better picture than this Brighton one, which is all messed up. So,
yes, that's a great picture. What was he like What was he like to talk to? You've said he was very approachable.
It was as if he'd always known you. See what happened at this one. This was 1990 at Atlanta Fantasy Fair. Jack. Hey, Comic Relief Crusader, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Jack and Roz Kirby were there. It's kind of strange. Cons were a little bit different back then. They weren't at a dealer's table. I mean, excuse me, they were. They weren't at a what you got?
I thought you were going to say they actually sold comic books back then. Yes.
This one did. Yes, they had, and this was at CNN Center, which was next to this World Convention Center, so it was gigantic. And this is 1990. Like I said, as you can see, I was a young, stupid lad of name it 26 years old, and just in awe of the king. And they weren't there as how you go now and you got like an artist alley and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not like that. It was Mike Thibodeau, who did a comic called Last of the Viking Heroes, but also did a lot of work for Jack Kirby and inking. He, along with Greg Thigson and some others, he had a table set up just like in the vendor's room. I mean, it was just like a vendor table selling his comic, and Jack and Roz were there. And what happened was, Roz told us, the only reason we're here is because I went to do the marketing at the grocery store. Jack answered the phone and he could never tell anybody no. She was telling people no left and right that year because of his health.
Wow.
I mean, and his arm was, not in the best of shape. His hand, and so you walk up to that table, and they're standing behind the table with they're just chatting people up, talking. And a couple different times I got and talked to Ross for an hour or two, a couple times, and talked to Jack 2 or 3 hours at a time standing there. Other people would talk to him. I'm trying not to hog him or anything, but a couple of different times he would get us talking, and a couple of people would come over, and he was just regaling us with stories like he's our grandfather sitting here talking to grandkids and stuff. That's what he made you feel like. And he was telling us war stories, obviously talking about different things with comics. He and I, we talked about movies. Total Recall had just come out. And he said, "Oh, my God, that movie kicked my ass." Oh, man. Kal-El, what's up, brother? The super one. And it was just so much fun. You sit there talking to the man who created all your dreams and all your stuff that you love in comics, and it's just being treating you like you're special and like like he always did.
Yes, and I've heard stories he did that with artists as well that went to visit him. You know, he wouldn't turn people away.
Kids from in like in the 60s and the 70s when he moved out to California, Thousand Oaks, kids would kids, I say kids, late teens, like kids, but hippies, I guess, whatever, would hitchhike out there and go knock on his door. And Roz would take him in. They would show him the studio. She'd feed him. She'd be named Marv Wolfman. And I think Lynn Wein and Marv Wolfman did that. And a couple other people who ended up writing comics, because they loved Jack, and Jack's work so much. Jack would always take him in, show him the studio, give him some art, and treat, it was just, that's legend that he did it. So, and if I would have been old enough, I would have.
Yes.
One time, Claude got their phone number and called on the phone, but Jack wasn't there. Roz answered and he talked to her for about an hour or whatever it was. I think he told me. And he said, I just talked to Roz Kirby on the phone. Jesus Christ. And she was just as sweet as can be. And the thing is, in this one here, though, he airbrushed this shirt. I always called this one Jack's Got My Back.
Do you still have this shirt? Just out of curiosity.
Somewhere. It wouldn't fit me anymore, probably, but somewhere. I don't know. I do have it buried somewhere, and I'm pretty sure. And the thing is, one of my favorite moments is because even then, as you can see, I'm the thing. I could pile through things. I could drive through things. He had to get to a panel, and on the Friday, it was either Friday or it was Friday night, and it was kind of crowded. And I said, well, allow me. And I started just barreling through the crowd. And Claude said, follow that big MF right there. He'll get you there. And I felt like I was the thing or some true story. I led Jack Kirby to the panel. He let me lead him in. Yeah.
Okay, that is a great story.
I love it. And it was topped off even better by the great Julius Schwartz, legendary comic book editor, Superman editor. Hello, Donnie Pearson. Welcome. Julius Schwartz went on to as MC went to introduce Jack Kirby, and I know I've told you this before, but I'll tell everybody else. Julius Schwartz introduced Jack Kirby this way to the audience in Atlanta in 1990 at this. I think it was the ceremonies that we're having before the costume contest or whatever. And remember when they didn't really have so much cosplay. The word hadn't been invented yet. They had the costume contest, and Julius Schwartz, again a legendary figure in comics. Who, before he became an editor in comics of Superman and other books, was the literary agent of Ray Bradbury and Alfred Bester, and a great fellow. He said, and his voice, he was from New York, sounded almost like a gruffer version of Stan. He said, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created Superman. Bill Finger and Bob Kane created Batman. And Jack Kirby did everything else. And Jack, I could imagine Jack was humbled by that. He was very nice about it and diplomatic about it. But Jack would tell you that there were a lot of other people that did a lot of other things. But it's actually true in terms of the building blocks of the art form or the industry of comics. It's Jack's those characters, Superman and Batman, certainly laid the foundation for the genre of superheroes. And then Jack added all the rest of the building. I mean,
yes, he built the walls. Yes, you had the foundation, and then the walls went up. And yes, yeah.
And he did it much later. LT, what's up, buddy? Avon lives. Long live the Legion.
Why do I get the feeling you just added that emoji just for Lord Doff?
Oh yeah, you see, hey, you like that, LT? We got that. I got to get a Legion one. I get Raquel to do me a Legion L. I forgot to tell her, but we got the Rover. The Legion L will be done, sir. And by the way, have a little trippy moving stuff.
Oh, I love that. That was such a good cartoon as well.
I love this cartoon. And this is really, even though Kirby didn't technically did it, he did because it's taken from Kirby art.
Yes, yeah, there was definitely an homage to his artwork.
Yes. We love Doom, don't we?
Yes, we do. But we love the Fantastic Four, and you've talked about this, and the only good Fantastic Four film we'd ever get, obviously, is the one that you would make. But
yes, without me in charge. Yeah, go ahead.
What was it about the Fantastic Four that really appealed to you? Because were they the first ones that you read, or were they ones that just kind of caught your attention?
as you know, my gateway to geekness was the Adam West Batman TV show, but right after that was Saturday morning. And I'm not sure which came first, but I think I saw the Fantastic Four cartoon first. You know, the one that this is based on.
That design of the thing.
Yeah, it's a wacky design, isn't it?
It's seen worse, but there's something kind of endearing about him. It's the way the mouth moves.
Yeah, and the face is, you know, and my mom, who's, you know, no geekness or whatever, but she saw us watching it, and we'll never forget. She would see him on there. She called him the Rock-Eyed Ape. What's that Rock-Eyed Ape? And I don't know, but I love him. I don't know what he is because I'm 3 or whatever, but I love him, 3 or 4, whatever I am, and then of course started seeing the Filmation Superman cartoons and different and Batman, and this was even way before Super Friends, and then the Spider-Man cartoon and the Marvel Superheroes cartoon. But then, of course, I got that Power Records that I've always talked about with the Fantastic Four, which is a reprint of Fantastic Four 126, which is a John Buscema retelling of the issue #1 origin with an audio, with a little 45 record. And that was what somehow I loved them all, but there was something about the Fantastic Four and something about the Thing that just, I guess, because I wasn't like my brothers. I went to special education classes. I've always had severe learning disabilities. I've always felt like an outcast. I'm not just saying that. I really have, still do, and still do feel like that. And I think that's what resonates with me about the character. He's been is an outcast, and what I would argue that Ben Grimm ranks probably right up there with Superman and Batman as the most important character in comics. I'm not saying this because this is my favorite. Batman and Superman are the 2 greatest characters ever created in terms of the superhero genre. And yes, I'm sorry, Eris, Batman is a superhero. We have that argument, by the way. Eris and I argue, but Batman is a superhero. Anyway, she says not just because he doesn't have superpowers, but that's not what it means. Anyway, so the reason why I think the Thing is just as important as those two is because the genre was relatively stagnant until Marvel came on and breathed more life into it. Although the Justice League was very popular, the art form or the type of storytelling wasn't growing. It was just getting some audience because, you know, you put Superman and Batman and a bunch of superheroes in a book together, it's going to sell, but it didn't grow the medium. The Fantastic Four did. And when you think about the Fantastic Four for a second, and even look, the creations are not that original. Kirby was good at innovating more than just creating. In this case, he had to do some innovating and creating, in the sense that you have Mr. Fantastic. He's Plastic Man's powers, although he's a genius, so that adds a little bit to that. The Invisible Girl / Invisible Woman has invisibility powers. The force field stuff didn't come till later.
Yes.
So her
powers...
and
she was very much a damsel in distress to begin with as well, wasn't she?
Absolutely. And there was a lot of, if you want to call some actual sexism, the way those comics are written, like, yeah, it's there. Yes. And so, but her powers not particularly original. There were actually some comic characters that had it before, including females, in fact. And then you have the original the Human Torch is just a rip-off, basically, of the original Human Torch. However, Jack made Reed super smart instead of a goofball like Plastic Man. He made Sue, gave her own identity, in spite of her powers being something of a copy. And he gave Johnny, it was a human rather than a synthesoid.
Yes, and I think the main strength and the appeal that Fantastic Four had for me was that they were a family. This wasn't a affiliated group that came together. They were actually, you know, there were Reed and Sue were a couple, and Johnny and Sue were brother and sister, and then we had Ben, who was the best friend, the loyal wingman. Right,
but see, the Thing here's where it gets I guess different. The Thing, there was no monster superhero until Ben Grimm. People say, wait a minute, the Heap or this. No, the Heap was a mindless heap. The Hulk was borderline a villain for a good while at first, and although he was after Ben anyway. Ben was he was not only a good man, a very well accomplished. He was the big man on campus during college. He was a war hero. Then he was a test pilot, very successful, big, athletic man who had it all and got turned into a monster, what he perceived as a physical monster. And in all the fiction before that I know of, especially in comics for sure. When that happened, when a character gets turned into a monster, they become a villain.
Yes, they lose their humanity.
Exactly, and they lash out at the world. Well, Ben walked that abyss, that precipice, for a number of issues, but he never fell in, and he became one of the most heroic and respected heroes in the Marvel universe. Even though he was still hated being the rock monster, that eventually falls in love with a blind woman who, after a while, started thinking maybe she's only going to love him if he stays the monster, and almost deep down in some ways didn't want to be cured, which is much later.
Yes, and there are obviously stories where he does get cured, and then he has to make the choice: do you stay as human, or do you go back to being the thing? There's a lot of morality to this character, and I think that's why he's endured for so long, and why so many people, gravitate towards him.
Hey, J-Man, good to see you, buddy. That's exactly right. And look, Lord Thoth, I agree. I think he is the greatest hero in the Marvel Universe because he's the one that gave it. Without the success of those early FFs, there'd be no Marvel Universe. And Eric K with a $5 super chat. Thank you, dude. He says Clobby's first superhero was Captain Bedrock. Unfortunately, only Captain Caveman tablets survived over the years. Captain Cave. I'm sorry. You deserve it, though. You deserve that one.
God, I miss Captain Caveman.
Mel Blanc, right? He did the voice. I think.
Josie and the Pussycats and all of those
yeah.
cartoons that used to be on one after the other.
Yeah, I love those. Hey, Kal-El, he says, I completely agree, Clubby. I've always seen Superman as an aspirational hero, but still somewhat relatable. But characters like The Thing are even more so with their struggles. Absolutely. And I do believe you don't have to look like a character or have any superpowers to relate to guys like Superman or Batman or any of them. You relate to them on a human level. And the same with Ben.
Yes.
Ben is the everyman that had a terrible thing happen to him. It is what we do with that tragedy that makes us a hero. Exactly, because how many times have you seen in stories of superheroes where someone would get deformed and get these powers, but they would be turned into a monster, or they would just get superpowers by accident in these silly stories, and they would become a villain for their own gain. One way or the other, the heroism, it kind of brought out what kind of character they were down deep.
Yes, it shows the inner strength that the character was written as. And you mentioned the Hulk as well, and over the years there's been some fantastic clashes, I guess would be the best way to say, between the two characters.
Oh yeah, Hulk Thing battles are iconic. I wish I'd put pictures up of some of them. I forgot about Hulk Thing battles, but I will tell you this: the FF wrong one. Right here, that was the cover, basically from the cover of FF number 3. They didn't get costumes, or do you call them costumes or uniforms? I mean, they're uniforms, I guess.
Yeah, uniforms. Yeah, I suppose.
Well, they didn't get those until issue number 3, when fans for the first 2 issues wrote in and said, "Why don't they have uniforms, costumes, or something?" Because that's what fans were. And hey, Apollome's Minion, good to see you. And that's what really kind of made them look like superheroes at first. In fact, I'm tired when people say the Fantastic Four aren't superheroes. They're just scientists. They're just explorers. No, they're not. They're superheroes.
No, they're most definitely superheroes. And as we said, they have the added advantage or disadvantage, depending on which way you look at it, of being a family as well. They are the first family of comic book heroes.
And absolutely well said. And I'll show you another superhero. He was so real, because he was real deal Captain America. He not only co-created him, by the way, Cap was not the first patriotic superhero. That was the Shield, but Cap was the most popular one, the one that resonated the most. And he was a real deal war hero. I've told this all the time, but I'll always say this for those who haven't heard it. If you can find that documentary, I think it might still be on Amazon, called Kirby at War. I highly recommend it. Talks about not only his days at war and in combat and in serving in World War II, how it affected his art later. And it's just fascinating. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
So on his birthday, I recommend it yet again.
It is fascinating to hear the way war resonates and how it affects people who are creative. And you think that with Kirby, and then obviously the authors like J.R.R. Tolkien, what they went through and how they incorporate it into what they create.
That is so true. Tolkien being one of the, I mean, easily the most famous example of that, right? As far as a creator, but not the
I,
only one, though.
not the only one, no,
But
but
the most
definitely
famous for sure.
I think it's a generational thing as well. It seems to be.
Yep, yep, that's true. Classic Comics, so they did try to sue him over it. Threatened MLJ, which had the ones who published Shield. Threatened lawsuit at Cap's original Shield, too similar to Shield's costume. That's why he changed it to a round shield, and I'm glad they did. I'm glad they changed it to a frisbee.
Yes, much easier to throw.
Yes, it was weird throwing that other one. So, and then of course you just got the big shield. Good lord, it's perfect.
Look at these dynamic covers.
This is his 70s. It's a weird thing. As far as Kirby art is concerned, to me, it didn't quite peak in the 60s at the Silver Age, but that's where it started to really refine and look extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something about, I love his Bronze Age stuff too. But I know one thing you'd love to talk about is his villains. And he never had a better villain. I mean, he had some pretty, Galactus was a great threat, right?
Yes, I was going to ask you, do you consider him a villain or do you consider him more of a force of nature?
I do, because it's proven that Galactus, the Silver Surfer originally wanted to lead Galactus to worlds that were uninhabited, and he could take the time to find them, that he get the energy from, and not destroy civilizations, and Galactus didn't. People like to say he's just a force of nature, he's not really a villain. He's a villain. Hey, D-Bud, what's up, buddy? Galactus is a villain. I'm sorry. I think it's villainous to destroy civilizations.
Yes.
When you could find a way not to.
Just to have a snack, yes.
Yep.
But that artwork is incredible.
The black light posters from the 70s that Kirby did. I don't know if you ever saw those. Those things are incredible.
I haven't actually, no.
Yeah, there was a series of black light posters that Marvel did that had a lot of Kirby on it, and oh my god, imagine having that poster. I wish I did, and postcards too, by the way. And there's, of course, the real man himself with the shield.
That's a great picture.
I love that picture. Oh man, the man with the shield, and but he created, in my opinion, two of the greatest villains, but one who just stands above all the rest. You and I love, and we're wrong for that. We shouldn't love somebody so despicable and evil, but we can't help it because he is the man. And let's see here. I mean, there's so many. Let's find the one we like the best here. Where are you? Oh, there it is. Dr. Victor Von Doom.
There it is. And I love this artwork. We've talked about this in the past, but just look at the detail. And not just with the Doombots behind him, but with his mask, with the way that the cloak falls. Love this.
Something about that design of Dr. Doom. Something about it. That just, it works. I mean, it shouldn't. It's green. He's got a weird hood on his head. He's got a crazy Iron Man, and it's fantastic. It's just perfect.
He's just wearing a tunic, technically.
Yep. I don't know why. He just makes it perfect. I mean, I don't know. I can't exactly put my finger on it. It's just the best.
Yes, and I've heard Stan talk about this character and the way that he was created, and that he wanted somebody who basically he's a villain, but all he wants is to take over the world, and that's technically not illegal. But I think he's so much more than that. And the way that they develop this character,
yes.
I've always been drawn to him, and not just the way he looks, but the fact that he can go pretty much toe-to-toe with anybody in the Marvel Universe, and has actually taken over several times, and every time he does, he does actually do a good job. It's his own hubris that is eventually his downfall.
Yes, he gets outsmarted by Reed eventually, but and then he denies it. But he's one thing. Yeah, he cannot. And there's the thing. Even though he started in the FF and he is the FF villain, he's such a bigger threat to the Marvel Universe. Not only, and by the way, people should stop entering Doctor Doom, if you know what I mean. Enter Dr. Doom. Hey,
And
I'm here to stop you from entering me. So,
and we've talked about in the past, Doom is one of those characters that when they draw them on the front covers, they almost make him look larger than life. So he's always looming over, especially on the Fantastic Four.
yes. Yes. Hey, Adega Outlaw, welcome. Good to see you.
Hey.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, and then even he teams up with Submariner sometimes. And I mean, there are too many Doom great. This is one of my favorite Doom covers right here.
Yes, that
Yeah,
is
like you said, he's
incredible.
always looming over you, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Ninja Knight, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man, old buddy. It's
What a
good to see you, brother.
fantastic chat.
Yeah, what a great chat we have here. Good, thank you all for popping in. Again, hail to the king. But this is one of my favorite Doom covers right here, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
This is fantastic.
Since we are talking Doom and obviously we're talking Kirby, what is your take on what's under the mask? Because I think we've discussed this in the past. So a lot of people say that he's horribly scarred, but if I remember correctly, Kirby always maintained that he was just a very minor blemish that he had.
Well, he got overruled by Stan with the stupid scar thing. I mean, I've always subscribed to, or at least agree. Well, obviously, I'm biased. I take Kirby's side against Stan on everything. And so I admit it.
Really?
Even more. I know it's a shocker, but I take his side on this anyway. But as far as that, if I disagreed with him, I would say it. For example, I actually disagree with Stan on the Green Goblin question. Whereas, I mean, with Ditko over Stan. Stan wanted to make him Norman Osborn, and Steve Ditko said, that's stupid. I just want to make him a random nobody. I think for Spider-Man's drama, it worked that it was Norman Osborn. Mm-hmm. So I'm agreeing with Stan on that one. You might agree with Ditko. I kind of agree with him on that. But on this one, I think Jack was right. The extraordinary ego of Dr. Doom and Jack's idea for him just to have, he wears the mask and won't take it off because he has a slight scar rather than a totally disfigured face. I think that works. I like the way that sounds and works so much better. But Stan overruled it, and he's it. Every time they show any kind of something close to that, he's got a, or they insinuate that he has a scarred up face.
Yes, so I'm just seeing if I can find the picture, and I'll bring it up.
Jack has drawn that though. Yeah. By the way, it won't let me load any other pictures. By the way, we have some other cool Kirby art here that I always love. This one here.
That is incredible.
I think Alex Ross on that one. I actually like the burn take on it, says D. Bud Martin. A small scar initially, but having the hot mask placed on him burned the rest of his face. Well, that's because he was, I don't know. I can live with it, D. Bud, but I like what I'm here. I'm with you. So I can live with that. I know what you're saying. Oh, cool.
Yes, that was kind of like
let me get this off here.
It was kind of like a compromise, wasn't it?
There it is.
Yeah, I love.
Yeah,
that.
it was. It was
fantastic.
Yeah, that's Kirby, and I think it's inked by. I can't read the name. I think that's Theakston. Mike Theakston.
Yeah.
Theakston. I had Theakston on my show years ago.
Really?
He was one of Kirby's inkers and friends, and did a lot of obviously worked with Jack a lot. So I had him come on the show many years back. I had him on, and then was going to have him on again, and I just got kind of behind. And I run into him at Dragon Con about a year or two later. We started talking. So, well, when are you going to have me back on? I was like, he was just kidding with me. And then about the next year later, I found out he passed. I'm like, oh man, passed away. I wish I'd have got him back on. But Greg Theakston was cool. I mean, Greg Theakston did a lot of stuff with Dave Stevens as well. He's one of the ones that got Betty Page a lot of recognition in the 80s for her 50s and 60s pinup work. And, so with the Betty Pages as they did. So, yeah, Greg Theakston was pretty cool. Oh, yeah, more Kirby fan art.
That's really good.
Yeah. But Doom is easily, I think probably easily, his greatest creation as far as villains are concerned.
I think so. It seems to be a character that he put a lot of thought into. This wasn't just a character that was going to be kind of a weak villain that there to be taken out. He wanted somebody who could have, I suppose, really kind of have menace and have real weight, not with just the Fantastic Four, but eventually with the entire Marvel universe.
Yeah.
I don't know. We had that with Magneto and Red Skull as well. I guess those would be kind of the top three. But there's always been something about Doom that he just seems that much more menacing.
True, but I will show you another one that rivals Doom for me, and he did it for DC. That was Darkseid.
Yes.
This it's interesting that a lot of people, many anyway, have noted that in the 70s, yes, he did not get to finish New Gods until he did actually this, when he brought it back and reprinted it all. Then he got to finish it in the Hunger Dogs graphic novel, which he at least got to finish some of it. But Darkseid was probably the most famous of his DC creations by far. I mean, Orion is his son. People don't really remember Orion much unless you're a New Gods fan. I mean, Mr. Miracle, the Demon, which are not Fourth World, but I mean, Mr. Miracle was, but Demon wasn't. But out of his Fourth World, people probably remember Darkseid the most. One of the things that some have postulated a theory on is, did in fact George Lucas read Kirby's Fourth World many years earlier? Because you do have a father and son conflict. Father is the villain. I am your father. Darkseid and his son Orion, and you have the Source. They're both powered by the Source, not the Force. I don't know, and it's a very galactic and space and war between New Genesis and Apocalypse. Just saying. I know he was inspired by a lot of other things as well. Classic Comics said, did you read any of the material that was published after his death, such as Major Victory, Silver Star? So actually, it was Captain Victory and his Galactic Rangers. I did. I bought that. Was PC Comics, and not politically correct either. Pacific Comics. That was their first big thing that they printed. Was it 79 or 80 or something? I bought Captain Victory and Silver Star. Yes, and then later some of the stuff he did for Topps Comics. Yes, indeed, Classic Comics. I bought it all, and I still have it all, and even this Destroyer Duck, in fact. So. What's that there? Oh, okay. So yeah, I think this. I'm just saying it was very influential, was it not? I mean,
oh god, yes. And I know we keep going back to this, but just the way these characters leap off the page and the backgrounds. Once you see a Kirby background, you automatically you know when you see them.
Yeah, it's again. I was talking about this. Well, the other night, Wednesday night, my Kirby month special was about it was called, I called it Kirby, basically for Kirby Splendor, like basically Jack Kirby special effects, which means I talked about the visual effects he employs to make his pages so extraordinary, like his Kirby collage, Kirby collages. I showed a bunch of those. I showed a bunch of his big toothpaste spreads. Hey, Cardinal Sin, thank you for the $10 super sticker. You were too kind, my friend, as always. Thank you so much. I hope you're having a great day yourself, and thanks for helping us celebrate the birthday of the King of Comics, Cardinal Sin.
Good to see you.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, good to see you, man. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, brother. Hope you're doing well. His pages, the Kirby Crackle, there's nothing like Kirby Crackle. I mean,
yes,
it's and everywhere.
The detail that he put into machinery as well, like the
Kirby machines.
Yes.
You mean sort of like this?
Exactly. Yeah, just like that.
I want to live in a world with Kirby machines. I was talking about that the other night. I want Kirby spaceships.
I have no idea what this thing does, but it looks impressive.
Yeah, it's a Kirby machine, and it doesn't have to make sense. It's just got to be a Kirby machine.
It's probably a coffee maker or something.
Yes. Damn it, Stretcho, I'm holding this big, do you always have to get in the blasted talking kick every time I'm holding something? Oh, my goodness. I love it. And also I love it. We had a great time reviewing this. Last week, on Monday night, Mark D and I, Is it the greatest Jack Kirby single issue of a comic all time? I don't know, but we had fun reviewing it. We had a lot of special features and stuff. It was great. And it's just this one, oh man, I love it. So I didn't even do show notes. I'll do those later. What the hell? Yeah, because Monday night, because we got 2 more Kirby shows to go in Kirby month.
Yes.
I'm calling Monday night show with Deep Space Nine. So I'm calling Monday night show Saturday morning Kirby. We're going to talk about, in the late 70s, he was hired by Ruby Spears to create a bunch of cartoons and to work on one that he pretty much created because it was stolen from him. I mean, it was the Thundar.
Thundar, yes.
Well, he was hired to work and work on design on Thundar, but let's face it, Thundar is a direct kind of swipe from his commandy. So Kirby created Thundar. I don't care when anyone, not Steve Gerber, although he worked on it. So yes, and then there were a bunch of cartoons that didn't get made that he conceptualized for them, and that'll be Monday night. I'm calling it Saturday morning Kirby. Could you imagine a bunch of Kirby cartoons?
Yes, actually, I could. I think they'd be incredible.
I mean, there were some, and that's you see some of those pics there. That's from some of these pics are from a card set they did in the 90s, which I have, which was basically based on his Ruby Spears sketches and stuff like that he created for him. And there's some wackadoodle concepts there. Totally, that's what I love about his later stuff. They were just insane. I mean, he did not. I mean, there was nothing restraining him. Nothing restraining that unbridled imagination. He just, and it's just bonkers.
He was creating well into later life, wasn't he? If I remember correctly, he wasn't somebody who kind of went into retirement and then stopped working. And you talked about the conventions that he went to, even though it probably was detrimental to his health. It seemed like this was something that was a lifelong passion.
He never stopped. There were stories about how they had to, eventually his family had to take his driver's license away and not let him drive anymore because he would run off the road and hit things. He was always thinking and creating and stuff. And I mean this is an imagination unlike the world's ever seen, because he was always creating stuff. He created so many things and so many ideas, so many different styles and forms of art, so many different creations. That's why I believe he did 80 to 90% of all the true creative heavy lifting when in the so-called partnership with Stan. That's my belief, and I mean it. I totally believe it, and I've been researching this since the early 80s.
But Stan invented everything, including inventing things.
I'm Stan Lee, and I created creating things. Yeah, I remember. In fact, I was watching that Spider-Man cartoon I told you about. The last episode had Stan in it.
Yes, it did.
And as soon as they show Stan's face, Spider-Man walks in there, and you hear him stands on the horn. So I said to Jack, "Why don't we make him green?" Oh, I remember I wanted to punch. I have this thing now. I wanted to punch the entire friggin' universe. I wanted to throw one punch and just let the whole goddamn universe feel it. Even you innocent people.
See, Galactus has kind of got a... he's kind of coming round to him now, aren't you? Yeah.
I created myself. And I said, wow, what a great creation I am. I should have created me a long time ago. But I wasn't around to create me because I didn't exist. Oh, wait a minute. That's wrong. Never mind.
I love Stanley. I don't have the same disdain that you do, but your Stanley voice does crack me up. So anytime I can get you to have a little bit of a dig at him, I will.
Oh, I'm pleased to do it. I've been studying the Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko conflict since the 80s. It's something that it's kind of been a passion of mine, an amateur passion of mine. And I just, if you look at the facts, I won't get into it because we're supposed to be celebrating Jack here, but if you look at what he quote unquote did before Jack and then what he did after, what he wrote. Yep, Jack got revenge. It's true. Well, a little bit with the funky Flashman character, the con man who has intended a parody of Stan and House Roy. Yeah, he did that at DC. He created a character called Funky Flashman. Stan was not amused somehow, but Stan to his credit laughed though. Stan was a great politician. We're better off that Stan did what he did. In a sense, it's a shame that it hurt the Kirbys and the Ditkos, but we're better off that Stan didn't go into politics because he could have been president. I mean, he was that good at politics. So he was that good of a liar, basically. Anyway,
There was something else that I wanted to ask you about Kirby, and this is something that I didn't know until quite recently because I did a
Mhm.
little bit of research about him. But I didn't know that there was a Jack Kirby Museum and Research Center.
Well, it's mostly a virtual one
Mm-hmm.
called the Jack Kirby Museum by Randall Hopp or whatever.
Yep.
Although sometimes they put an exhibition somewhere, but yes, the Jack Kirby Museum. I bought the shirt I'm wearing now. I bought from there. My Jack Kirby
Nice.
shirt I have now, and yes, of course they have a. I think Jeremy Kirby or Neil or one of them is involved in it sometimes as well. But if I ever won the like a $bazillion lottery like they had or whatever, you would see a real one in real life that would be open 24/7, and it'd all be there, all the Kirby displays, Kirby Kirby Land. In fact, I would open Kirby Land instead of Disneyland, that kind of crap. Kirby Land or Kirby World. You know, Kirby actually did in the 70s work with Rogers and Lasney in they were working on a theme park called Science Fiction Land, and Kirby was doing the designs for it. That didn't
Oh,
get off the ground. Could you
imagine.
imagine that?
Yeah, actual you being able to touch a Kirby machine or get your photo taken in
Uh,
front of it. That
that'd
would have
be
been
just
incredible.
the world doesn't know what it missed. I mean, that would have been uh, Science Fiction Land. That would have been the greatest. I would have been there with, like I say, with famous science fiction author Roger Zelazny. But yeah, that'd have been something. I'd have been there all for that one. But yeah, that was. It's I. I don't know. Jack was not a good businessman, I guess, and that's kind of what happened. But
It seems to be the way with people who are very creative. You know, they
true.
would rather just create rather than go into the politics and the business side. They leave that to other people, and sometimes, unfortunately, they get taken advantage of because of it.
Well, yes, in a sense, the talent doesn't get involved with all the business crap. In other words, same way with like whether it's sports or acting or anything else,
Hmm.
it's not their forte to be business people. Um, but Stan was great at being an opportunist. Martin Goodman was great at being a criminal, fraud or whatever. Yeah, pleasant. I mean, Martin Goodman was a yeah, not really the not as I always call him the not Stan's uncle. They always said he was Stan was his uncle, but he wasn't really. He was a cousin. But he was a lot older when he hired Stan. But I'm gonna stay off the Stan, I promise, because he's Santa Claus to some people. So.
Yes, yes, he is.
But not to me, because I invented Santa Claus, and I haven't tell you at that time.
We've talked about some of the villains that Kirby created. What about some of your favorite heroes? I mean, obviously, Ben is at the top, but who else would you say is his most memorable creations?
I'm gonna have to say that without question, memorable, or is he just? I mean, my favorite other than this FF is going to be It's going to be Captain America.
Hmm.
Um, he's right. I mean, he's on my list. Like right up there with he's right up there with. I think my list actually consists of Ben and Superman and Batman and then Cap. No, then Spider Man, then Cap, right up in there. And there's argument that Kirby had a little bit to do with Spider Man as well.
Hmm.
Yes, Clobby's Kirby Museum. Would have a small section in one corner called Stan's Screw Ups and show all Stan's scripting mistakes.
Put it next to the theatre that will be playing Clobby's Fantastic Four film 24/7.
I should write. Yeah, that would work. Pleasant says I should write a book about the nice and not so nice folks in comics business. There are far more qualified fellows than me that have done so, sir. But thank you. Lord Thoth loves his X-Men. Yeah,
Hmm.
I do
Yeah.
too.
I would say also Black Panther.
Black Panther is a wonderful creation.
Hmm.
Especially the way Kirby did them. I'm kind of partial to the Inhumans.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, I'd have to think about it if I just did a list of and I should have done that. I should have done like favorite. Maybe I'll do it before Wednesday. My favorite all-time Kirby creations, excluding all other superheroes that I love. I might do that, or Kirby heroes, but Dick
Yes.
Fury in his original form.
Hmm. And we've already talked about the Hulk, obviously.
Oh yeah, I love the Hulk, Thor, I know he didn't create the mythology of Thor, but he did. The he created the comic book version. So yeah, or at
Yes.
least the Marvel Comics version, because that wasn't even there was even one before him in comics. But let's see here, Commandy, yeah, good one. Yeah, Thoth, I love Commandy. Uh, I do love I love the New Gods characters, but I love the demon. I love Etrigan.
Yes. Etrigan doesn't get enough love.
No, and he should. And but something. It's funny. I'm trying to think who would be. Well, let's see. Some of them are right here. Probably could just Why don't I just do that? Um, all of these are ones I love a lot. Well, of course, you got some villains on there though. Oops, I put some villains on there.
All good characters, though. That's it. Yeah, these are incredible. And Silver Surfer, I've always been very partial to.
Oh God, yeah. Silver Surfer. That was one of the big. Not to swing back to Stan Hanklinser, but that was one of the ones where I first thought something was fishy about Stan. He had he had admitted a couple times that Jack did it without him knowing it. They just came up. They basically, when they were quote unquote the two of them coming up with the story of Galactus, Jack had Stan said, "Who's this guy on the surfboard or whatever?" He said, "Well, it just occurred to me that a guy like Galactus wouldn't just go seek out planets for himself. He'd need some sort of a herald or something." And he created him. Surfing was big at the time. It was a goofy comic book, so he came up with him. And Stan went, "Whoa!" He liked it. Well, there's a book called back in the Hey Dark Shadow Logan. Good to see you, sir. There's these Fireside trade paperbacks back in the for Marvel in the Fireside published them in the 70s, which I still have mine. Called Origins of Marvel Comics, Sons of Origins of Marvel Comics, Bring on the Bad Guys and the Superhero Women, stuff like that. And in Sons of, or maybe in Origins or Sons of, I can't remember which one. One of the things, No Love for Crazy Quilt, isn't it? That's a DC character, isn't it, Thoth? Batman villain.
Still counts.
Yeah, but Kirby, I don't think Kirby created him. So Stan was writing the introductions or something. He said something. He was talking about Silver Surfer, and he said he came up with the idea. And he says, this is in print, folks. Even though he's contradicted himself on many occasions, he says, "Let's see old Jackson draw this one." I thought to myself, or something like that. Wait a minute, that's wrong. Before that, and then after that, several times you admitted Kirby created him. So which is it, Stan? Anyway. Just saying. But anyway, the Silver Surfer is a great one. What's another one?
Yeah, Silver Surfer is great. And like you correctly said, this could have been a character that would have been very goofy, but because of the way he was portrayed, it just worked.
Right. We used to call him the Cosmic Crybaby. But it's fun. We love him.
I like a more sensitive hero. Yeah. He's a bit more philosophical than some of the other ones that we've had.
And Ben was afraid that he was going to steal Alicia from him.
Yes, well, and then you've also got Doctor Doom constantly trying to steal the power cosmic from him as well.
Yes. Oh God, yeah, and they did a great job with some episodes of the Great Fantastic Four cartoon that we both love from the second season. I should say.
Yes. I wish that had more seasons because that was such a good cartoon.
Oh God, yeah, it was so. I mean, just one more because it was only really 12 episodes and a clip episode. But the clip episode had some new stuff in it. So still, clip episodes. I'm like, what's wrong? But yeah, it was truly great.
Yeah, and I think the Silver Surfer only got one season as well, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and the sad part about that is because I love that. By the way, it was a great show. Even though the first one, the opening 3-parter, kind of bothers me because you don't get the FF in his origin. This is origin without the Silver Surfer's origin without the FF kind of aggravates me personally. That's just me being a ridiculous geek. I realize that. Nevertheless, it's a great cartoon, even though the first 3 episodes, which are great, don't have the FF in them. But the next season was planning it. Did you know that? They were going to do a second season. That guy was Larry Brody was planning that, and nope. It just was not meant to be.
And that's a real shame because I think those mid kind of 90s, early 90s cartoons were really good, and considering what we had after, they still hold up to this day.
They're incredible. They're incredible.
I'm going to throw one at you now because I know you got a little bit heated with these particular characters. The
Might get me riled
Eternals.
up. Go for it.
The Eternals. I know you absolutely hated what they did with them.
Oh God, let me tell you something, because it's funny. We might be on the same wavelength, because I was about to mention something about the Eternals.
There we go.
Back when it first came out, I don't think I bought it. It was like mid '70s, and then later I remember buying a bunch of issues here and there because they were in quarter boxes forever. Anyone remember quarter boxes? You got to be old. Now they're dollar boxes, but you know. So, in fact, a side story to that is I walked up to Ross Kirby at that same con we were talking about that we were at, and I showed her. I went and had a bunch of stack full of comics, the Kirby issues that I all got for a quarter, and we were just talking. We've been talking, going back and forth the whole time. I showed her those comics. I said, "Look what I got." Just showed her. "Yeah, you got me some Kirby comics," and she starts to take them out of my hand and says, "Well, Jack's not, as you know, not signing any autographs here, but I'll take him up to the room and get him to sign them for you." And I almost cried. I said, "Oh no, I've got his autograph. Oh, I can't do that, but thank you." That's a side note to how great those people were. But Eternals were some of them, and I never read the comic that much. At that point, I think I read a couple of them here and there. And when this piece of garbage movie came out, I decided that there are only 19 issues. Well, 19 in an annual, right? So I decided that I would read them all right before the movie and review it the day before the movie. Then we would review the movie.
I remember.
So I had Mark and Nick and I think J-Man join me. The story, the characters in the story, they're okay. It's not any of his best stuff. Now the ideas are phenomenal in this book. The characters are just they're all right. They're just some interesting ones here and there. But you know what? For Kirby, crazy, outrageous, unbelievably eye-popping art, that 19 issues is some of my favorite Kirby art I've ever seen. Looks great on digital, by the way.
Yes, and I remember you being so incredibly passionate and just absolutely ripping the film apart because you said, how could you take something that is so vibrant, that is so full of life on the page, and just bleach the colors out?
Yeah. Oh, it was so horrible. And side note, yes, I got it backwards. Thank you. I knew Minimus would help, even though he's annoying. He gave Kirby credit in Sons of Origins. It was later in a magazine, probably Comics Feature, I think, where he forgot that Kirby was the creator. Then in a Silver Surfer anthology, he gave the credit back to Kirby. There you go. I got it backwards. Sorry. But thanks, LT. Yeah, she was just wonderful. But yes, the art in Eternals is, even if you don't like the story much, the art, if you love crazy Kirby, just blowing off the page, just popping off with these incredible. It's just, to me, it's some of his finest art.
Yes, lots of robots,
machines, crazy. Look at everything is just absurd. Now Kirby, when he did this at Marvel, he did not really care for it to be. He didn't want it to be in the Marvel universe. I don't know if you knew, but they talked him into it. So when you see one issue of it that has the Hulk on it, spoiler alert, that's not the Hulk. It's a robot. He did not want it in there, and they made him do it. So he just made Hulk robot. He wasn't happy with that, so he left.
So, did he envision this as being a completely separate universe? Was it a standalone story that he wanted to tell? Or
yeah. He wanted it to be that. He wanted it to be separate from Marvel, but you know how they were back then, I guess.
Pretty much how they are now. Yes.
No, a little bit different actually. Now they don't care about anything but message. Back then, they cared about bottom line. I'll give them that. But they were scumbags, but they were.
They still wanted to make a profit. Yes.
Oh well, yeah, they still actually cared about selling comics. They were just jerks. Let's see. Donnie Pearson says, "I too shall run so I can make my vlog regarding Power Rangers." Oh, okay. But thank you for a great stream. We'll have a good stream there, Donnie. Thank you, man.
Yeah, take care. Thank you.
Everyone, subscribe to Donnie's channel, which I don't know what it is, but if anyone knows, please shout it out. We support other channels here, of course. So I hope good luck. But I love then I guess you may or may not know, Marvel after he left it, Marvel just I mean almost immediately snatched it up and put it in their universe. We put him in Roy Thomas or whatever put him in the Thor series, and then later he finished up what he considered to be sort of finishing up the story in Thor. And then in the mid '80s, they ended up with a miniseries. And then, as you know, later the Neil Gaiman thing in 2000. And then we get a movie that resembles nothing of the Kirby stuff. I mean, zero, not even a nod. Just his name on it. But the ideas are incredible, the concepts and all that stuff, and the visuals are out of this world. It's just that it wasn't as great as comic in terms of story or character or anything, but still.
But where he seemed to excel, and I know we talked about it in regards to Fantastic Four, is having characters that had interpersonal relationships. So you had the Eternals, you had the FF, you had the Inhumans.
Yeah.
And that's what made these characters fascinating. They weren't just individuals, they were connected.
They did. And in Marvel Comics, unlike DC for a while until later DC caught up, they started out and I mean it kind of in the best possible sense. They were soap operas. They were long sagas. Matthew Pounder, hey there, man. Indeed, happy birthday to the king. They were soap operas, and like you said, they were a family. So, boy, the Fantastic Four, especially in the '70s, they went through some tumultuous times. They were. I mean, they had everything. You had the quitting, the coming back, the reforming, the near divorce of Reed and Sue, the Submariner being a jackass and coming after pursuing Sue. Poor old Johnny having his heart broken by Crystal. Hey, Salty Texas, thank you so much for the 149 super sticker. You are too kind, my friend. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Sent us a slice of pie.
Indeed. And he has, of course, a great channel. Anyone, please check out Salty Texas' channel, because I know you guys, you do a weekly show. Is that correct? Or two?
Yes, I'm lucky enough to join Salty on Tuesdays, and also lucky to get to work with him Wednesdays, and basically whenever else we get a chance. It's really, really fantastic to get to work together.
Indeed. And of course, you guys got to hang out when you came over to our side of the world. Yeah.
I did, yes. And,
cool.
I still need to make it down to see you as well.
Well, I hope so one of these days. Hope so. Absolutely. By the way, I will send you my ship to come pick you up. In fact, and there it is right here.
That's definitely you, Clobby.
Wouldn't you like to just ride in that once? I mean,
subtle, understated, yes.
Yes. Not that subtle at all, in other words. About as what was it as Blackadder would say? About as subtle as a rhinoceros horn up the backside. Wow. Oh man. I just love it though.
I have no idea what that thing does, but it looks amazing.
It's some kind of underwater contraption in Eternals.
Okay. All right.
It's just the insanity of a Kirby machine. It's like, I don't know what that's for, but I like it and I want it. And I want one right now. And that's the kind of what I was talking about the other night with the Kirby, the Kirby machines.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy designs for these machines and stuff like that.
Was he technically minded as an artist, or was that something that he had a passion for, or did he just like making these outlandish mechanical designs?
I don't know where they came from. Technically speaking, he wasn't someone who was, much of a technician or anything like in terms of. In fact, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it just popped out of his imagination. For example, I mean, look, that's an alien ship there, but that's just insanity. That's from Eternals. That's what I'm saying. Eternals had the most outrageous stuff in it. It was so good.
Mm-hmm. And that's that down the bottom and round the ship. That's the famous Kirby crackle that you were talking about, isn't it?
Yes, we've got Kirby crackle everywhere. It's just you can't get away from the Kirby crackle.
He also did incredible Galaxy, panels as well. You know, deep space with the planets and the stars and the swirling galaxies.
Are you familiar with? I don't know if we've ever talked about. Are you familiar with a Kirby collage?
I think we've talked about it in the past. I'm trying to remember.
Let's see here. Well, let's see. Let me find one. I put it in the wrong place. Let me get me a Kirby. Well, I talked about this the other night, but since it's his birthday, just kind of show it again real quick. A Kirby collage
Mm-hmm.
would be one example. Would be let's go with a really busy one like this. I don't want you to have a lot of pictures on this stupid thing. Don't pull this on me now, StreamYards. All right.
Oh, look at that.
Now, we were talking about this the other night, and I've shown a bunch of these because they're Kirby collage is just. Remember, this is right here is the late 60s, early 70s. This is the late 60s right here. No computers. I mean, none. Not even anything resembling a damn computer. All of this, and I guess he just photographed a bunch of. Hungry Boy. I don't think Hungry Boy's here. Hungry Boy talked about this a lot. About how some of the ways you do this, but it's all work. I mean, this is all done. I guess with objects that he take pictures of and do cutouts of, and it's unreal. This is not even the tip of the iceberg right here.
Did he do this with buildings as well, if I remember correctly?
I can show you a wackier one here.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But it just draws the eye in, and then you're kind of jumping from all over the panel to see what else is in there.
Yeah, this is actually a more tame one, probably, if I'm guessing. I mean, some of them are. I mean, in fact, I'll do a screen share of one in a second that are batshite. I mean, they are. I mean, they are just. You like, man, people. It's all that old joke. People say, "What kind of drugs was that guy on?" Well, Jack wasn't. It was just information. I mean, but it's a joke. You got high, whatever. But Jack wasn't on anything. Jack just had an unbelievable imagination. Let's see if this one is. Here's one of my favorites right here. This might not be. I'll find another one. Come on, you slow ass.
So this one that you've got up at the moment, would this have been a center page? Is that?
Yeah, 2-page spread.
2-page spread, yeah.
Which he also did even as art. I mean, this is crazy. That's not even the craziest one right there. That's not even the most extreme one. Let me just easy just to Google it. To Google it. Let me see.
There's Crystal. What? Don't see her very often. Crystal. Don't see her very often.
Yeah, that was when she was she was still around. This is again. So this is one of his earlier ones because Crystal's there. And I was talking about this the other time. I can imagine he probably just said when he started doing it, I can imagine the art department at Marvel going, "What is this?" And Stan was never there at that point. Stan was never, at that point he was just he was phoning it in. He was doing all the advertising and the lectures on the lecture circuit, the college campuses and Camp High and whatever, and stuff like that. And there was no one that was going to tell Jack he couldn't do it. So he just did. I mean, these nutty. I mean, anyone else would just draw the damn thing because it had to be way more work. All that stuff, but he loved. He loved his art and his craft so much. He thought this would be. He wanted to do something creative and something broad and something beautiful and something that no one had ever seen before. When you could just take the paycheck, just draw the crap. What the hell?
Yeah, you could have just kind of phoned it in and but the fact that he took the extra time and effort to create this.
So you can see some of the wacky ones over here.
That's so good.
This one from Hunger Dogs, always just this one right here. It's just, and this is a little. I know the picture's small, but you could find these all over the place. If you just do Jack Kirby collage, you'll find tons of them. Because he did them, and imagine you're a kid, and you're used to reading comic books. And Andy Masterson, hey there, good to see you. The great maker of things. Imagine you're a kid though, in the 60s, 70s, you're used to seeing standard. I mean, at this point, you're used to seeing some great Kirby art, but it was really, it was around a few years in to the middle of that Silver Age, or like to the end of his '60s run, or the middle of his '60s run when he started doing the crazy stuff. And you sit there and just you open up a page, you might see a big 2-page spread because Kirby was starting to do that a little bit. But when you open up to something like that, like what? I mean, you just have to be mind-boggling. Like, what in the hell is that even? What does it mean? But you just can't stop looking. It's craziness.
It is. You're drawn into it because you're trying to figure out what it is you're looking at, and two, there's just so much going on the page. And sorry, I was laughing at Claude Parrish's comments.
Yeah, he is a laugher. Oh yeah. Oh lordy. He's that way, isn't he? He even did it on single pages, as you can see.
That looks so good. I love this.
He was more than just an artist. He was a creator and an innovator and an originator.
Has there ever been a book put together with all of these designs, or does it exist?
The Kirby Museum has a lot of stuff like that. I don't know if there's a whole book with just all of those in there, but the Kirby Museum does have a lot of stuff like that, I think. But I'm not sure if they did a book on it. If they did, it would have been. I'm sure it would have been really expensive.
Oh,
but
yes.
I would have wanted it. But I would want it. I always love this one here, this crazy one here. And that's way back too. It's like he was still at Marvel. Look at that one from Jimmy Olsen. That's just
that's like one of those seeing eye pictures. You look on the 3D image.
Yep, all that in the kids' comic book. How you like that? That's why he's celebrated today. But again, it's not just that. That's one of the many aspects of he's done. So there's another thing. That's why you can't. It's impossible to talk about everything that he's done or all of his accomplishments because there's so many. He probably, it's been said by those who more learned than I, that he revolutionized the medium about 3 times over 40 years, which means, and what they basically mean by that is he set the tone for something that became copied and copied and copied and copied. Like when he first started drawing some of the superheroes, he wasn't the first one to draw a superhero. But eventually, when he started before he went to war, people started trying, when they saw how he drew Captain America and a couple of other things, they started trying to draw their heroes bigger and more dynamic, and in trying to copy what he was doing a little bit. And then when comics were under siege in the 50s or so, in the late 50s, when comics, or in the mid 50s, I guess, when comics were under siege by the Senate and by the Congress for the Frederick Wertham's witch hunts and the seduction of the innocent and all that stuff, and the superheroes and especially the crime comics and the horror comics and all those, the industry was being just choked out and destroyed. He started not so much introducing, but redefining and repopularizing the Western comics, the romance comics, and some of the other types of comics that saved the industry, and some of the monster comics that, gave them a lifeline when people weren't buying some of the other books that much. And then in the 60s, when he's basically, Marvel was before, when it was Atlas and it became Marvel, obviously with the Fantastic Four and all that stuff. Again, that's really, in a sense, that's 3 times. I mean, there is no more influential comic book artist creator than him, and it's not even close. Even though people will pretend Stan Lee is on that, and it's just not. There's no one.
Yes, I think people forget that he wasn't just in the superhero genre. As you say, it was romance, it was horror, and one of the ones that I remember was the Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, the work that they did together.
Yes. His first partner, Joe. They created the Cap together. They also did after those witch hunts of the of the 50s, the seduction of the innocent, all that stuff, the congressional witch hunts, that eventually brought upon the Comics Code Authority. They did a comic during the kind of the communist scares of the 50s. Now, there was, McCarthy, say what you want, we're not getting political, but he was, whatever else he did, there are a lot of people who were accused of being something that they weren't, but there was still a lot of legitimacy to the scares of what was going on with communism. But he and Joe Simon did one of the more subversive comics that was called Fighting American. That was kind of poking fun a little bit at that mentality as well about the at paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
That was something. And of course, he was doing a lot. He started doing science fiction comics like Challengers of the Unknown and a lot of those monster books.
Yes, yeah. And one of the genres that I want to get back into, because I know he did work in it as well, was westerns.
Westerns. He did. We had Boys Ranch. He, later he did things like Rawhide Kid. I guess Two Gun Kid as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think he created Two Gun Kid. I know he created Rawhide Kid, and yeah, did a lot of Western comics as well. Huge.
Yes, yeah, and that I completely forget, because I suppose most people are so familiar with his work with the superhero genre, but
right,
that's incredible.
And war comics. With where are you? With Sergeant Fury, of course.
Yes.
Jack. There are two characters I think that were Jack. Obviously Ben Grimm, and probably Nick Fury. They were Jack. Jack was a war hero, of course, but he's also a tough kid from Hell's Kitchen that last Nick was, who got in a lot of fights and all that kind of stuff, and was ready to fight at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
he seems to be very patriotic, and he brought that out in his characters as well.
Yes.
Have you got a favorite genre outside of the superhero that he works on?
Let's see. It's tough because I'm such a superhero zombie, but I think I would probably choose. I love his science fiction stuff. I love some of I love the monster stuff. I also loved a book he did, a strip he did that was actually put into a book later. Was Sky Masters of the Space Force. We had some Wally Woodacking on some of those. So I like kind of that kind of stuff the most. Superheroes, of course, unmatchable, but I love his monsters and some of his science fiction stuff. Mm-hmm. So that'd be my favorite. But figures.
Yes, I've got to admit I do gravitate towards the horror because I thought he did it very well. And as I said, the next one that I really want to dive into, and now that you've kind of shown what it is, it would be the Westerns, because I had no idea he did so much.
Oh yeah. I should have pulled up some Kirby Westerns, because like I said, he did a bunch of them. And they've all been reprinted a good bit from what I understand. Or at least in later reprints, maybe not in collections, maybe. But yeah, Rawhide Kid though. Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Is it Kid Colt as well?
Kid Colt Outlaw. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and of course, as a fan of westerns and movies and stuff, and comics, I remember my favorite Western comic was always Jonah Hex. Now Kirby didn't have anything to do with Jonah Hex, but still.
Yes, we've talked about Jonah Hex.
Yeah, I love Jonah.
We love Jonah Hex.
Yeah, I love Jonah. But there's a Rawhide Kid over there on this one. And
oh yeah. I didn't even see him.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You got a little bit of Kirby influence going on here, so you have to look at the pictures for quite a while before you kind of
yes. Well, if there's some villains in there, and shout, well, a couple anyway, a few. There's some villains in there. Usually, I'm only sticking with heroes. I got a crazy friend of mine who is what was it? He's an encyclopedia of comics. He knows more. He remembers more about stories than I ever will. But he's got this stupid. I forgot what it was. We were talking one day about. I think it was action figures, and we were talking about. I forgot how this happened. About some figures we were getting, and I remember mentioning some. I guess it was a Dr. Doom figure or whatever. He said, "Well, I don't buy villains figures." I said, "What? What do you mean?" Because I love superheroes. Well, yeah, but you need. Oh, I know they're great villains, but I hate villains because they're the bad guy. I don't want to have one. What are you freaking nuts? No, but they're part of the story. Why don't you want? He won't buy the villains.
Yeah, see,
I was like, "Are you stupid?"
for me, you couldn't have one without the other, and I suppose you could argue, at least with Doom, that he doesn't see himself as a villain anyway. So,
But he gets that with the story, but he won't buy the damn figure. He just buys hero villains. So you, dude, you were loopy. Oh, Andy asks, was it who would you have cast as Nick Fury? '60s actors tilted. I would have picked. I'd have wanted Kurt Russell,
yes, I could see that.
which there's a painted cover for a Baxter, I think a Baxter miniseries in the '80s from Nick Fury versus Shield or something it was called, where they painted him to look very close to similar to uh, Kurt Russell. I thought he did kind of look similar to him, but I'd say my choice would be Kurt Russell. As far as but he's great in everything. But there are some other people picking some good ones here as well, though. But not David Hasselhoff. How about that?
No love for the Hoff.
Not really. No, I mean not for Cat. I mean not for Nick Fury. Yeah, I don't know. I'm one of those. As much as I like Samuel L. Jackson, I wish they hadn't done that with Nick Fury. Mm-hmm. Although at least he's based on Ultimates, but I hate Ultimates. That's part of the why. Nevertheless, he's still good. I love him in the movies. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
but they could have called him something else. Maybe I don't know. I mean, that's not my Nick Fury. Nick Fury is right there, and then later, he was right there. I mean, I wish he did at least a cartoon of this. Well, he was on that Spider-Man cartoon I've been rewatching. He's like that. He's that version. Although he looks too much like Reed Richards on that cartoon.
Yes, yeah, they did kind of make him look like Richards, didn't they? Yeah.
Yes, they did. And I probably mentioned this before. Again, for anyone who wants to, if you ever want to read a very fair and balanced account of what, in terms of the dispute between the creators, this one's a great one by Two Mars. I love this book. It's fantastic. John Mars did a great job on it. They even went back and corrected some problems they had with it. It's called Kirby and Lee Stuff Said. It's even got Ditko stuff in there too. The complex genesis of the Marvel Universe in its creators' own words, and I do mean in their own words. Quotes, not so much quotes, things they said in letters, columns, all that stuff. Classic Comics says. I had a 3-ring binder with the Mad Bomb cover on it. Me too. When it was, I had one. It had that cover and it had a couple others. It had a bunch of. I was looking at those one time. All those three binders I had with Marvel Comics all over. I love them. James Coburn as Nick Fury. Yeah, that could work. That could work. I could see that. With the eye patch there, That's great. And the Kirk Douglas mention, that was, yeah.
Yes.
I guess so. That might work, yeah. Maybe John Wayne. No, not John Wayne. John Wayne did have an eye patch in True Grit, but no, he wasn't ready to be Nick Fury. No. So, no. I'm just kidding about John Wayne.
Couldn't quite see that, but...
Yeah. Well, Snake Plissken looked like Nick Fury. Sort of. I may have been a little skinny in that, but I don't know. for Nick. Yeah.
Clobby's gone down his fan casting.
No. I just asked. I actually, this guy's Nick Fury right here.
And Captain America.
And The Thing. Yeah. Because The Thing was the first Jewish superhero.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So there he is with his shield. Now, casting the Silver Surfer would have been different because he'd have been. You do know that this movie was planned in the 70s. There was a movie planned in the 70s, right?
I've heard that. Yeah. Yeah.
And again, when you think back, because when we were somebody, I don't know how it came up the other day that we're asking about how you casting if they did the FF movie in the 60s. We were talking about casting it and stuff, and I'm like, I just can't. I'm thinking about what would the effects be like?
Pretty bad, I would imagine.
If you got Ray Harryhausen to animate some of it, though, or stop motion some of it, right?
I
But
think there would
still.
have been a lot more heart. At least they would have done their best to bring what's on the page into the screen. But
Good point.
I actually kind of liked
Turtle
the
Rock.
Silver Surfer that we had. I've got to admit, I thought that the film wasn't brilliant, but I kind of liked it.
He was, yeah. I'm kind of with you. He was good in it. It's just that the story was, I thought, was rotten, but he
Yeah,
was fun. It was fun to see him running around there for a while, and obviously Lawrence Fishburne's fine to do the voice. That's fine. I just, man, that movie. Oh my god, it's just. I'm sorry to be an old stick in the mud about it, but how in the I'll never forget. It makes my excuse for a brain hurt when I think about the end of Rise of the Silver Smurfer, because somehow, let me get this straight. He flies up into Galactus, right? Cloud Lactus. And then Galactus leaves. Am I missing something? Well, if he could beat Galactus all along, I mean, Phantom, what's up, dude? I need it explained to me. I need those writers to come over and hang out and say, well, no, this is what really. Well, wait a minute. I watched the movie. Unless my brain shut down and I don't remember.
yes, you can't imply it. You've got to actually show it.
I want to know it because he flew up into the cloud. Remember? Am I remembering it wrong?
No,
It's been a long time. I watched them again about a year ago.
Yeah.
Right, I rewatched those about a year ago for the first time in a long time. And there are things in them I like, those FF movies. But not much, but a few things. But he flies up into the sucker after he beats Dr. Doom Super Skrull, which I hate that Dr. Doom. And then then the Galactus Cloud Lactus whatever just is beaten. Somehow.
Yeah, it felt like they tacked him on at the end for no particular reason.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Doug Jones was the physical Silver Surfer, right?
Yes, he was.
All
yes.
fine and good, yeah. I mean, let's see. Clobberin times. Because the surfer knew the magic word, please leave. That was it. Could you please not eat our planet? Oh, well, if you're going to be that way about it, I'll just leave. I'll just pack up my vapors and leave. Whatever. Gassy lactose as created by too much cheesiness. Yeah. Let's see. What do you mean over to explain? We all know you're going to place them in the agony. You just wanted an excuse to use the agony booth, Chris Bergia, which I don't blame you. Oh, you need to check our poll. Let's check our silly poll that I did here.
Yes, let's
I guess I can close it.
See what people are saying.
I got my come on, man! I got to go to StreamYards. Not StreamYards. YouTube and pull this sucker out. Let's see. Okay, I asked the question. Come on, man! All right. Okay, I'll go ahead and end it now. Let me think I should end it. Yeah, I'll go end it. Okay, ending the poll now, folks. Thank you all for participating. We had 38 votes. That's enough votes. Well, enough votes. You should be president. Okay. I said votes, not votes, you idiot. Oh, Abbott Costello. Anyway. All right. Let's see. Well, all right, where are you? I close. Oh, my computer, by the way, is almost as old as me. Well, yeah, it's like a onesie. My son hates it when I call it a onesie, but it is a onesie. It's like the computer's in the screen, if you know what I mean. No, it doesn't have a tower.
It's all built in, yes.
Right, an old was it a HP? Well, where's my damn? I can't find it. Where are you? You freaking come on, man. I can't find my well, I can't find. I closed it. I ended the damn poll.
Yes. Would you like me to read out the results for you?
If you have, please. Your voice is better than mine anyway. Everyone will appreciate that. Because I don't have it. I'm not kidding. Thank you.
It's YouTube being YouTube as usual. So, Clobby asks, which of these Kirby genres do you prefer? And we had superheroes, science fiction, romance, and westerns. I was kind of sad that there wasn't enough to put horror on there, because I probably would have put horror as well. But
I should have. Damn.
So coming in at fourth place, we had westerns. Nobody clicked on westerns, so that was 0%.
Oh.
With 2%, we had romance. for those romantics out there.
Somebody put romance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Science fiction actually got 16%.
Okay.
And obviously, with a overwhelming 80%, people went for, of course, superheroes.
That is not a shock to me. Not shocking at all. I totally get that. Because Kirby is a superhero. So, yeah. Yeah. I always wonder if, look who's here, the great Mark D with a C, the chief engineer. Dude, good to see you.
Hey, good to see
Just got
you.
home. A fantastic car would have made the trip a lot faster. Yes, I want a fantastic car. Did you know, by the way, speaking of all the things he created, he predicted, you know how we always talk about Star Trek predicted the cell phone and all this other stuff, which
Yeah,
it did.
flip phones, yeah.
Well, Kirby sort of predicted the smartphone.
Huh.
In a sense. And what I mean by that is, obviously Star Trek did all it because of it before him. But in the Fourth World Saga, he has this thing called a mother box. And idiot Zack Snyder didn't know what that was in his stupid movies. It's not what idiot Zack Snyder said it was. It's basically a little square box thing that can project a boom tube, that has a computer and communications and all that crap in it. It's basically the sum of knowledge, for the people from
just condensed.
Genesis, yes. So it's square, but yeah, I mean a mother box is not what the stupid ass Snyder garbage has it. I was like, wait a minute, what? A mother box is, and that is just something with a button that destroys shit. Ugh. Anyway, so yeah, Jack. But granted, he may have been watching Star Trek. So, I don't know. Did you know that? Well, Jack did, of course, a wonderful comic called Commandy, which I should have pulled up a picture of. I think you might be.
Yes, I've never read Commandy, but I've heard you talk about it in the past, and this is one of your favorites, wasn't it?
I do love it. It's been a long time since I've actually sat down and read some Commandys, but I'm going to be remedying that soon. I have, of course, some of the trades, not all of it. He did that. That was one of the ones of the 70s books that lasted a while. Naturally, Minimus there has them all. Well, actually, the series, he left the series at some point, but he did a lot of them. Anyway, and there's also a cartoon of it. Did you know they did a cartoon? Oh, it was on Batman Brave and the Bold, which I love, and they made it very Kirby-ish. But they also had a short cartoon for one of those crappy DC animated movies last year. That stupid JSA one they did. But the short cartoon on that is pure Kirby-ish. This is Commandy, though I think Minimus didn't like it. I liked it. Anyway, so Commandy, there's a very famous. Have you ever seen the famous Commandy #1 cover?
I think so. Yes, I think you pulled it up last time we talked about it.
Let's see if I can. There it is. Got it. Boom. One of the most famous covers ever. Well, obviously, nobody's perfect. Jack can be derivative as well. This was well, you can see the Statue of Liberty sticking out. It reminds us of one of the greatest movies of all time, of course. The Planet of the Apes, 1968. Yes. Well, I don't know if it's true or not, but some have said, and I believe Jack. I mean, he said he had not seen the movie when he did this. And this was, of course, a good number of years later. I don't know if that's true. I'm not going to say, dispute him, but I'm like, well, I don't know. It does kind of, look, let's be fair. And it's fine. He did other things that were derivative of other things. Everyone did. We knew that comics that long. No big deal. Could be call it an homage if you want to, Jack. But if he didn't, it's pretty amazing. Yes, damn dirty apes. Take your sticky paws off me, you damn dirty apes. I love that's one of the greatest. I love that movie. It's one of my top 4, 5, 6 all-time favorite movies. I don't know if you ever watched those. I love them.
Oh yes. I really like them. Didn't like the remake so much, but the originals, yes, very
Tim
much.
Burton's 2000 movie needs to be burned. Every copy.
You know what? I actually forgot that one existed. So yeah, thanks for that.
I watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and I thought it was an okay kind of a movie, and they almost sort of tried to tie it into the old ones. And I didn't like the other ones after that. The next one, and it's, eh. But look, to be honest, in that 5 ape series, not to leave Kirby too much, but um, none of them are as good as the original. And the third one is pretty good, although it's kind of a ridiculous premise. Beneath and Conquest are okay. They have their things. Battle is terrible, but I love the TV show that only lasts 14 episodes. The cartoon was fun, which was based on Monkey Planet. But
Yes, I've never seen the cartoon.
Doug Wildey of Johnny Quest fame did it, but it's weird. But I remembered as a kid, it was fun. But anyway, so this is very much this is definitely. I don't care what anyone says, and we're going to be talking about this Monday night. This is definitely what Thundar was taken from.
Mm-hmm.
Not 100% natural, you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. It was like it's very influenced by it. So, Monday night I'm going to be talking about Saturday Morning Kirby, and we're going to talk a lot about Thundar and some of the other cartoons that didn't happen. I love Thundar. It was so good, and a lot of the things you see in Thundar, including by the way, a scene in the in a scene in an old subway station with a poster for a movie called Revenge of the Jedi. On the Thundar episode, true story. I think a lot of it's taken from Kirby. He was brought in by Ruby Spears to help develop the cartoon and come up with some stories and stuff. But the two guys, and I think along with Steve Gerber, who did a lot of the creating on it. I'm sorry, I call Thundar Kirby because it's taken from. It's commanding.
Mm-hmm.
Except he's got a sun sword. God, I love that. I just bought the Blu-ray of that cartoon last year. Obviously, it's fun to watch now. But
did he have any other influence on cartoons? You've talked to, and you're going to talk about Thunder, but did he have something to do with Thundercats as well, if I remember correctly?
Not that I know of. I don't think he had nothing to do with it. Now, whether it was influenced or not, I couldn't tell you. But I do know that he was. Well, you're familiar with his superpowers, right?
Yeah.
The superpowers, which he, in the early 80s, when it came time from DC to do their little toy line of superpowers, it was very nice of Jeanette Kahn and I think Paul Levitt, Dick Giordano, to bring in Jack Kirby to let him design those because, to help him out, which I thought was nice. And so he did that. That's another thing that he did have to do with the cartoon that got made. But no, not Thundercats.
Okay.
But I remember liking Thundercat. I don't know. Did you watch that a lot? I saw it a little bit.
I did. Yeah, it was one of my favorites growing up. I just wondered.
What's up, Courtney? How you doing?
Hey, honey.
There you
Good
go.
to see you.
Yes, indeed. Try to hang with us at Sunday Night Geekery tonight if you can. If you pop in, we'd like to see you. Everybody coming up. Sunday Night Geekery on Mark D's channel. Very, very at 10 Eastern. No, 10 something like 10 Eastern. There we go. I hate time zones. Why can't we all have the same time?
Yeah. Just keep it simple. That would be good.
Well, at least in the I understand how like you and I couldn't have it, but in the country, for sure, it should all be the time zone stuff. It's worse, especially with the daylight savings. Ugh, anyway, I'm just being a baby about it, of course. But yes, he did he designed the Superpowers line of toys, and they did a comic, of course, and then they did the Super Friends show got changed from Galactic Guardians to Superpowers team in its final couple of seasons, which was pretty cool. But it was good to see Jack get something like this. It helped him.
Yes, and again, just look at the design of this cover. It's incredible.
Yeah, this thing here. This was one of the. I think I have this poster somewhere. I had it anyway. There were a couple miniseries. Now it's crazy looking to see the DC heroes done in that style. It's his later style. A lot of people probably didn't. A lot of people don't like that style, which is fine. I love it, but it is weird. But just to see Kirby's crazy blocky take on Batman once. I mean, he never needed to draw Batman again, but just one time, Biker. Just one time to see him do Superman. And, he did Superman actually in Jimmy Olsen, but to see his take on his crazy Kirby-esque take on the DC heroes once. Again, not saying it should have always been. They were really not his forte, but to see it once, was kind of nice. And I'm glad that, he did well with that.
Yes. What I wanted to ask is, suppose that somebody had never ever read any of Kirby's work, where would you start them off?
That's easy. I would start them off at FF number 1. Even though, look, those early, and I would say bear with it if you're someone that doesn't have some sign of affinity for Silver Age comics. Because if we're being honest, well, again, there are qualifying questions asked. For example, if it were you, I know you've read comics, and I know you understand comics. Even if you haven't read one, if you pick up a comic that's from 1960s, something that the writings and the dialogue and all these things are going to be somewhat dated, different things like that. Also, his art was, crude or more crude by comparison of what you would see today. So, but if you stick with it, the book, again, dialogue's always, look, the one thing about these books that doesn't hold up the same is Stan, because Stan did insert a lot of dialogue. Stan's insertion of dialogue it doesn't hold up quite as well. But the stories, the art, which was crude at first and got better and better, and the ideas and the characters are worth it. And read that whole 102 issue run of Kirby's FF that's in, like Phantom said as well. That's where I would say. And again, that's dependent on if you have some kind of basic understanding of. I would give all those caveats from doing it for Kirby's work, because it is about the art and the creations and the characters and all that stuff. It's not Alan Moore kind of writing.
No.
Or even Frank Miller's at his best, or Neil Gaiman or that kind of stuff. It's not that. And yet, if you ask any one of those guys, Gaiman, Moore, and the guy, they tell you Kirby's the king.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What he gave them. So, yeah.
Yeah, they would all cite inspiration. Yeah.
Yep. And again, I think you'll see, because I remember sometimes when I go back and read some of those, even this the Kirby, the Ditko Lee Spidey, Kirby Lee, FF or Thor, what have you. The dialogue sometimes I'm like, wow, because Stan did frequently, of course, mainly erase. Kirby did the stories on stuff. He would erase dialogue and he would write the credit boxes. So he put his own dialogue, and that's the one thing that don't hold up, but the thing that I give Stan the credit for, dialogue. And some of it's like, wow, dude, he was no writer. Talk about purple prose, and I don't mean to confuse it with Purple Valkyrie. It was, but as far as just you won't have someone going and knowing what they're in for, that ride is worth it for the Fantastic Four. Yeah. Trying to think, was there another one? Yes, and his Thor run too.
Interesting.
Oh God, that's just it's very dense because it's so long. If you want the two biggest runs, the ones that will last you the longest, and that have just, go on for a long, very satisfying, long run. It doesn't stop anytime soon. Those are the two. I think FF first, then it's Thor run for me. There's other stuff too. It's Cap, his age, his shield stuff, but yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask was, do we know how Jack felt about seeing his creations brought to the big screen? We know how obviously Stan Lee dealt with them and the way the MCU was brought, but because we lost Jack back in '94, I think it was.
Yeah.
Do we know, was he proud, or was he pleased with what was being made?
Well, he didn't have a chance to be, because other than he didn't really have anything to do with Howard the Duck, and that was the only Marvel movie that had been made at the time. And so then that stupid Matt Salinger Captain America film was made. And I don't know if he saw it. He probably didn't, but I couldn't tell you.
It was possibly one of 6 people on the planet that saw that film.
And I wish I wasn't one of them. It sucked. So, but I'll tell you what, the kind of guy he was in his later years, if he had watched a really bad movie like that, he was going to be nice and say, well, it wasn't my cat, but he would be kind of nice. But so we'll never know. That question you ask is wonderful. I just wish we could know. And I think he would have been diplomatic, but he was kind of protective of these characters. So I can't speak for him, but I think he would like some and not others. He wouldn't approve of what they did with the FF movies, especially that Roger Corman one. Even I don't care. People like to idolize that movie. It's not good.
I wouldn't idolize it. I think the intent and the heart was there, but because that film was never actually made to be released,
right?
It was just made to keep the rights. I thought that was a very mean thing to do to the actors who really did their best.
Apparently, Andy's seen it too. I'm a the Red Scala. The Red Scala was Italian. It was Chico Marx. I'm a the Red Scala. Yeah. Bellissima Felicitona.
I just remember the poster with the ears on Captain America.
Do you remember the poster that came out years before the movie that said Canon Films presents Stan Lee's Captain America?
Yeah.
Excuse me. No. Stan did
Correction.
not create Captain America, you dumbasses. Yeah. I remember when I didn't create Captain America, but didn't correct anybody when they said I did. Those were some good times, weren't they? I said, hey, Jack, you guys go create this for me.
Everybody take a drink whenever Clobby
I'm sorry.
bashes stuff.
I remember when I saw Joe and Jack create Captain America, I said, I can't wait till I've created him. I was, by the way, there's a classic story. I don't know if you knew that Simon and Kirby, because they needed money and didn't get paid a lot, they moonlighted for Fawcett for the first regular issue of the Captain Marvel series, not Wiz Comics where he appeared, but the Captain Marvel, the real deal Shazam Captain Marvel. And thank you, Salty Texas, for that wonderful super sticker. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you, 149 super sticker. I appreciate you so much.
Yes, thank you for the popcorn.
Thank you. Oh well, I'm all about popcorn. See, I can't see it from this side, but I love popcorn, so I appreciate you, and I will have some popcorn soon.
Me too, in your rather splendid popcorn buckets. Yes.
I love it. Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Yes, I love them. So
it's the only good thing about those films, I think, that you can
exactly. Well, boy, and it would be weird in those popcorn buckets. They don't hold much popcorn. So they worked on that issue, but they were hiding. They didn't want Timely to know about it. And it got to Stan Lee, who was like this little office boy at the time, like 17, 18 years old, whatever. And he dropped dime on him, and that's what got them in trouble with Timely, with Martin Goodman, and got him out of there. Mm-hmm. And I remember Jack Kirby was quoted, "I'll beat the stuffing out of that little weasel if I ever see him again." He said that about Stan Lee later, before he went into war. Just saying. But yeah. So he wanted to beat him up, and he could have too, because Stan sat in a recruitment office during the war, and Jack almost lost his legs to frostbite out in another country fighting in the 875th or whatever it was. I can't remember battalion, but yeah.
But that's pretty much how Jack grew up, though, wasn't it? He was kind of a rough and tumble sort of kid, growing up in Hell's Kitchen, yeah, from what I've read.
Yes, born Jakob Kurtzberg. Jacob is how it looks, of course, and his mommy used to call him Jackie. I remember he told the story about how, he used all these different names, like something like Charles Curtis and Charles Cartez, or Lance Kirby,
Jack Curtis,
Jack Curtis, and all these different ones. He used many. Finally, he settled on Jack Kirby because he thought it sounded the most American. And he said his mother disowned him and his father. It's not literally, but they were mad at him for doing it. And he didn't. It's fuzzy. I think Mark Evan here doesn't know exactly when he changed his name legally to it, but he was using it when he married Roz. Roz eventually had to change her name to that. Roz Goldstein, I think she was originally, they had to change. I think she handled the name change, but it was right before they got married, before he went to the war. I can't remember exactly. Mm-hmm. It's the spotty, but I think, let's say in the war, they called him Jack Kurtzberg when he was over there. And he said, you tell people I'm the creator of Captain America. He said, that's what got him in trouble. It got him having to go sketch enemy, positions and stuff, because he was an artist. In the wall, just watch Kirby at War. It'll tell you all this.
I just had a wonderful vision of like those splash pages that he did, just doing that. But when he was abroad for the war, just having this land on your desk.
KK. Well, by the way, Stan Lee did do some very important work writing, posters about sexually transmitted diseases and stuff. I'm not making that up. He
I was
did.
going to
But
say
he's
you're being
admitted it.
serious now. You're pulling my leg.
He's admitted it. I wrote about dysentery. In fact, I created it. I'm sorry.
Everybody take a drink.
Sorry. I remember when I created World War II so we could have superheroes fighting that the Shitler guy, whatever his name was, the mustache dude. I thought that was a great idea because, bad things happen, but you got superheroes punching him, and that was good. I'm sorry. It's not like I wasn't doing this before he passed.
This is true. Yes, it's not punching down if you've continued it.
I've been beating up on him for
decades.
Yes, yeah. And you know what? To my credit, I've walked by him at many a con and didn't walk over and say anything to him. So there.
I was actually going to ask, we're obviously celebrating Jack's life and his legacy, but did you ever meet Stan?
No, I've seen him at many cons, had the opportunity to, and I just couldn't. I didn't want to. I mean, I don't like to hold a grudge, but I don't like what he did to Jack and Stan and Steve. I just don't. So now Steve apparently, didn't care as much, although he didn't like it either. Steve Ditko wouldn't have taken a dime for Spider-Man or any of that stuff if you tried to force him at gunpoint. He didn't want it. But he didn't have and he had some heirs, but he didn't want it. Just different kind of a cat, Steve.
Yes, it seems a lot of those guys from that era, even though they had an incredible body of work behind them and legions of fans, they weren't treated particularly well in their later years.
Oh, no. None of them were. Like I've always say, Purple, Marvel and DC Comics are built on blood. Blood of the creators. Blood of people. I mean, sure, legally speaking, they quote unquote, in big quotations, own OWN. They own these characters, legal rights to them. But their corp. No one individual. There was a multiple individual. Well, originally the ones who started it in motion, the people's like Martin Goodman and Stan Lee and Jack Leibowitz and all these other. Even before that, even Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson. A lot of these guys exploiting or starting the exploitation of. I'm not blaming Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson. He just invented the comic book, but he did start National. But I'm just talking about a lot of people are to blame, and it's very difficult to place blame on too many. Other than the ones who stand out, like the Goodmans or the Lees, but there are a lot of other people too. But they are the corporations themselves. It is tough because it's tough when you can't lay it on one or two or three or five or six people. But still, these corporations are built on the blood of people that will never, like, for example, some of these Marvel TV shows, right? When you watch the end credits, every now and then when I'm watching, I know I'm an idiot to watch She-Hulk, but that or like these other crappy Marvel TV shows, whatever it is, if you stop the credits at a certain point, you'll see these acknowledgments. Well, don't think for a second, other than Stan's family and Jack's family, who are getting a little bit of money, all these other acknowledgments, they ain't getting jack, if you'll pardon the pun. They're not getting anything. And you see all these names, and as a comics fan, it's kind of fun to go, I wonder, okay, they've got this name or that name. I guess that's referring to this story or that story. Because all that does tell you is the people who did this show mined old stories, old comics from all over the place. Usually they probably went to comic shops and had it done for them because these dunderheads don't know anything about comics. And they stole from bits and pieces of comic books throughout the course of time and employed all of these different elements into their story, watered down those they are, and used them. So they figured, look how great we are. We'll cite Sal Buscema or Roy Thomas or this person or that person, or this artist John Byrne or whomever, and we'll give him a little credit. Ed Brubaker is a famous one. He doesn't get anything for the Winter Soldier, but they'll cite him and go, well, "Look how great we are. We acknowledge them."
Yes.
So what?
Look at us shining a spotlight. Yes.
Yeah, it's a big deal. You didn't give what happened to Gary Friedrich and all these people. Other than Stan, obviously, and his family, and I guess And of course, Jack's family now, since they got shamed into it in 2013, they get something. But
Mm-hmm.
the other people you see in the acknowledgments, no, it was Ed Brubaker. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Mm-hmm. Oh
In
yeah.
this, yeah, well, the Winter Soldier did create the Winter Soldier, but their loophole is that Bucky is the Winter Soldier, and Jack Kirby and Joe Simon, and therefore Marvel own, the the Winter Soldier because of technicality. So Ed Brubaker gets nothing for that movie. He got his name in it. I think he got a cameo or something. I presume that Jim Starlin gets nothing, even though Thanos and Captain, Marvel, of course, and all these other characters, he got to be in game though, and he gets a credit, but they didn't get paid anything.
That's really sad, and I know there are obviously charities that look after comic book creators in their old age, and sell some of the original artwork for them, and just to try and get some revenue back.
Yes, Jack's lovely granddaughter has a charity that she spearheaded. Oh, what's the name of it now? I'm drawing a blank. Don't do this to me. I can't remember. Oh my goodness! And on Jack's birthday, they always do something for it. Now I'm forgetting it like an idiot. Someone can help me remember that, please, because I'm old and feeble. Artists. Oh God, our buddy Mark D with a C. I mean, Mark D. Mark C. It was a
Hero Initiative.
Hero Initiative. Thank you so much. God, you pulled me out. I forgot it. So Hero Initiative. If anybody can get the link in there, by the way, I appreciate that. Hero Initiative. That's coming from Kirby's family, and it helps comic book artists who are in a bad way. I think William Meisner Loebs was one of them. He was really messed up, and a couple of other comic book artists who worked in the field that obviously can't get any employment anymore because, well, we know why. They don't hire those people. Oh, what you got? Oh, thanks. Oh, thank you so much, Purple.
Yes, but this is an incredible charity. I've seen this pop up, and I think you've talked about it in the past as well. It really does seem to make a huge difference to the artists and writers that have been forgotten.
Absolutely, it's a wonderful thing. And again, I think Jack Kirby's granddaughter and the rest of the family, I think, are some of the ones who started it, if I remember correctly. And they've helped a lot of people. And so, because these are just people who just, the industry just kind of discarded them.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody just cares about the old creators anymore. So there we go. Bill Mantlo, yeah. Sam with Neil Adams. So there you go. So
where did the nickname the King come from? Was he always called that, or was this something that kind of came about later on in life?
Well, believe it or not, that's one of the things Stan Lee actually created. I actually called him the King of Comics. So, you smarty pants Clobby's got to give me credit for something, you dumbass fat. I created the name the King of Comics. He put it in early, and he just started calling him the King. Well, and he just started putting Jack King Kirby in the credits page. So it was Stan. You see, look how magnanimous I am. I'm giving Stan credit for something. See how fair I am.
No one could ever accuse you of being biased, Clubby.
No, I can't. I accuse me of being biased all the time, and I'm proud of it. I'm a gatekeeping son of a bitch. So, yeah. I remember when I created Clobby and said, boy, I wish I hadn't created him. Now he's going to go around talking bad about me. Oh, my God. That is an absolute fact, Classic Comics. Sam was big on nicknames.
Yes, and alliteration. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Even though it was a stupid show, was it a Big Bang Theory? They did have a funny one when they were talking about all the alliteration names of Kirby's characters. And was it one of them kept naming? It would take like 3 hours to name them all.
To be fair, I'm kind of with him on that because I do it a lot. It just helps me remember. Yeah.
I wish my name had those. How many people have that? Like, especially if all three of their names have the same first letter. That would be really funny, wouldn't it? I mean, if you have. So, I made sure it's a true story. I made sure my son, who was born in 1989, I made sure his initials were JLA.
Nice.
I love the Justice League of America. I got overruled on his other names. I wanted him to be Benjamin Jacob. So the compromise was I made sure his initials were JLA.
That's really cool.
Well, it's cooler to me than it is him. He doesn't give a crap. But I like it. That's all that matters.
Exactly. Yes, that's what matters.
Matthew Powder. That is actually a good point. Lee even stole that from Victor Fox. Fox Studios. I mean, Fox Comics. Fox Comics or whatever. Victor Fox. Well, that's a name from the distant past. Well, you know what? We've been here for 2 hours, and I know it is very late for you. And we celebrated Jack. We talked about Jack. We wished him happy birthday.
Yes.
And I know you.
Happy birthday, Jack. We do miss you. And just before we do wrap up, there was one thing I wanted to ask. What would you say his legacy is? What going forward? I mean, obviously, he will always be Jack Kirby to so many fans.
He will always be. I think it's pretty much summed up in this thing that I wrote years ago that I had to remake because it was I couldn't get it to do straight. It was pretty simple. He gave us so much. I think I've always called him the greatest creative force of the 20th century. And I'll put that up against anybody because there are many wonderful creative people naturally of that century that did many wonderful things. And yes, he's in an art form that doesn't get a lot of respect, but his inspiration transcended those boundaries and went into other genres. There's a reason why. I mean, how many? If you could name me another comic book artist that has a book called the magazine that comes out quarterly for about the past 30 years called the Jack Kirby Collector. Name me another artist of any type that has one. I'll wait. And in that, how do you fill up even on a quarterly basis that many magazines full of great articles? And I have every issue. I love it. About all these different details about the man and his work. I mean, how do you do that? So I think it will go down as this creative force that inspired so many people, that not just an artist, which I think Stan did treat him like just a guy who drew things sometimes. And I think Stan, did kind of backtrack some of that stuff later, which is fine. You know, I don't hate him. I joke about him, but I don't hate him. I don't hate anybody. But I think it'll be that. I think it'll be that his creations will live on. Now, the sad thing is, though, I don't know how far it will extend, Purple, because, again, we know it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people who don't know it, if they listen to my stupid voice, they might hear it. But how many people are really ever going to know it? I think I told you about this before. A buddy of mine went around he was at the New York Comic Con a number of years ago. And he was running around kind of like doing these man on the street type interview type deals. And he was asking them various questions. And one was like someone would have a Superman shirt, for example, or something like that. And he'd say, so who created Superman? He goes, it's Stan Lee. He would ask people different stuff. That would be one. I'm like, you're wearing this shirt. Who created the characters on your shirt? Or they would just basically default Stan Lee. Mm-hmm. He would ask him. Ask people, do you know who Jack Kirby is? No. What do you think? Or they would ask stuff like, who created Marvel Comics? Stan Lee. And unfortunately, it's always going to be that way. It's always going to be that way.
Wasn't Stan Lee that they were asking just in different costumes, or was it?
It was. He was standing behind him and said, just say Stan Lee, true believer. Coming at you, true believer, pilgrim. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And he's it's sad, but I'll tell you something. Basically, this sums it up that I wrote this here, and then we'll get out of here in a minute. We'll say it's happy birthday to the King of Comics. Thanks, Jack, for all the fantastic things you gave us, for all the incredible worlds you showed us, for all the astonishing tales you told us, for all the uncanny ideas that beguiled us, and all of the spectacular heroes who inspired us. Written by Clobberin, which sucks because he's shitty at poetry, but I mean it. Kirby forever.
Well said.
I just say, all I can do is say thanks. And, one silly little nothing of a YouTube channel celebrating we'll have to do, but not enough people will ever, in my opinion, Purple, and Das Wolfen, not enough people know it. And I'm not sure that enough people ever will know it. I'm not sure. He'll endure, don't get me wrong. He will live as long as there's some people who still love comic books and stuff like that and know and educate themselves on this stuff. I'm just one of those weirdos that's fascinated by comic book history. I love it. I read about it all the time. I have these magazines about it. And I've studied this whole Kirby Lee thing and a lot of other stuff, not like a professional academic because I'm too lazy for that, but read about it and studied about it. I think at least for since the early '80s, and I've always been fascinated by it. That's when I became disenchanted with Stan Lee a little bit when I started reading what both of the men have said, and people on all sides of it have said. I try to be fair to it. Believe I know it doesn't sound like it, but I do. But and Jess Wolfen said, "Got here just in time." In happy birthday to the king, Jack Kirby. Thank you. I think enough wonderful people like yourself, nice people like Jess Wolfen and others do know it. People with us here,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, as far as the world, we'll keep it alive, but no
Oh
one will ever
yes.
know it as much as I mean, it'll never be known as Stanley is.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think in a way Jack wouldn't have been upset with that because he seems to have been an incredible humble guy. He did it because he loved the medium, he loved to create, he loved to tell these stories. It wasn't about the getting the limelight, getting the accolades. It was because he had stories that he had to tell. But he does deserve all of the the applause and all of the recognition for what he's created. And we've talked about it. It wasn't just with the superheroes, but with the westerns, with the horror, with the sci-fi. So many genres he spanned, and I think
Yep.
it's up to us to obviously keep his legacy alive, talk about him as you've done brilliantly this past month, but to kind of try and pass it on to the next generation as well.
Well, absolutely. There's a reason why there's a recurring article in that magazine I was telling you about, Jack Kirby Collector, called Kirby as a Genre. Again, I don't know another artist of any or creator of any type that you hear that about. So the people who know will know, and the people who don't, I guess, there's not a lot we can do about it. But hey, it's a shame. But like I said, what you're saying there, Jack was a human being too. He did have his problems, and he was even bitter in some ways about Stan. But obviously, the two had conflict over it. But he didn't succumb to hatred so much. But he did have a lot of, you know, he was not happy with what Stan did. And
Resentment, perhaps.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was some of that. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
just to be, and who knows how that would have played out if he had lived much longer. So maybe they would
Hmm.
have buried the hatchet. I would that would have been nice if he lasted much longer. Obviously, if he lived, it would have been great. And eventually, if he and Stan had lived to comparable ages, he was a
Yes,
few years older
yes.
than Stan.
We
But
lost him when he was 74, was it?
71. It was like
Yeah.
17 to 1917 to 1994. So I'm bad at math, but it's like 70 something. So yeah, it wasn't much, but was as
Hmm.
much as Stan lasted a good long while. He was only a few years younger than Jack, but if they
Yeah.
lasted, let's say they both, for example, had lasted to 2012 or 11. Joe Simon lived long enough to see the Captain America movie
Hmm.
and then died right after that. But if they both lasted to 2010 or something, at least like that, and maybe they would have buried the hatchet, maybe in 2013. I don't know. We'll never know. But anyway, I want to thank my wonderful co-host, everyone. Please give a big round of applause and rovers or hearts or whatever for the great Purple Valkyrie, the wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I appreciate you tonight in your case.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You're the
Thank you
best.
for having me back. And as you say, we got to do this last year, and it's my honour to get to celebrate Jack and to say happy birthday to him.
I will invite you all the time. I will invite you again and next year if I'm silly enough to be doing a YouTube channel by then. I'm kidding. And of course I am. I'm way silly enough. So I'll definitely be doing that. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today and tonight. Appreciate you all so much. Mark D with a C, of course, the great chief engineer, Phantom Outsider, D Bud Martin, the great Chris Persia, the great Eric K, Cal L, Das Wolfman. Thank you for stopping in. Salty Texas, it was good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you. Matthew Pounder, who else was here? Classic Comics, thank you. Gwagnar, buddy. Lord Thoth. Avon lives, long live the Legion, bro, and Kirby forever. Phantom Outsider.
Fantastic chat, you guys.
What an amazing chat. Keely Chow, roll tide. Good to see you. I hate to miss anybody, but I love that at least you can backtrack on your chat now. Andy Masterson,
Yes, that's very useful.
very useful. Andy Masterson, what's Kimasabi? Good to see you, brother. I know you'll probably be on tonight on the pop culture breakdown, so look forward to seeing you on there. Take care, my brother. I always appreciate having you pop in. It's Courtney, the lovely Courtney was here. Who else was here?
And we've had another super chat come in from Eric K.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I'll get right to that, Eric. Let me bye-bye. I was backtracking so I could say hello to everybody. I already said Chris Persia, right? Yeah. Oh, my good friend Randy in Engineer. I missed you, dude. Randy, that's an actual friend who lives down here with me, a real life buddy. Good to see him. I'm glad you popped in. I'm sorry I didn't get to shout him out. He's probably gone by now. Minimus. I'll shout him out even though he doesn't deserve it because he's Minimus. I can't be nice to him on the air. Claude. Say it like how Raquel calls him Claude. She pronounces it Claude. Dark Shadow Logan was here. Oh, right, buddy. Good to see you, man. I hate when I miss people. I'll be right there, Eric. Dottie Pearson, thank you. Pleasant Valley Picker, thank you for being here. I want to, I like to cover everybody, because I do appreciate just having people. Sid East Warren was here as well. The Comic Relief Crusader, thank you for being here.
Do we say Lord Thoth?
Oh yes, and I'll say it again too. The great Lord Thoth. Avon lives, long live the Legion, buddy. And Ninja Knight, my old buddy Ninja Knight popped in. I mean, a good friend. And of course, the great Cardinal Sin. Thank you for that super sticker, buddy. I really appreciate you so much, man. You're too kind. Appreciate you. Let's see who else. I missed one again. Siege Perilous as someone I don't know. But thank you for being here, Siege. I just shouted them out, but I must have missed them. Sometimes I miss. You miss the.
Yeah, sometimes it skips. Unfortunately,
right. I know Leia Rose was here.
She was, yeah.
Lovely Leia Rose. Thank you so much. Well, I don't get the ladies dropping by that often. The lovely Sherry and Courtney and now Layla. Sometimes I get those sometimes, and they pop in, and I appreciate it, but not as much. It's usually us guys.
Clubby's being modest. Clubby gets all the ladies.
I wish,
including the lovely Raquel.
Oh yes, my wonderful. She's having a big day today. I hope you're winning. Hope you're winning that game. Love you, number one. And we had a great time last night on Saturday Night Star Trek. What a crowd we get. That's just so much fun. I think I shouted everyone out there, Purple. I just hate to leave it. Oh, Polyme's Minions. See, I didn't. And the Pepperoni.
Yeah, speaking of lovely ladies, good to see you.
Yes, indeed. Apollonie's Minion, and as Raquel has now says it, and the Pepperoni. she sings it now. The Pepperoni, the Pepperoni. Oh, J-Man was here. My good buddy J-Man. Great channel. Great friend of the show. We're going to be reviewing some more comics next month. And, he does a wonderful stream. He's fantastic. And a good buddy. What a great friend. I mean, so many great friends there. What a great bunch of people. So I keep thinking I've gotten everybody, but I just want to be sure because I know I missed some people. I hate doing that. There were a couple I missed that they showed up earlier. So I think that covers everybody. So there, let me get to that super chat. Eric K, brother. Did I miss it? Did you say there was a super chat? Oh yeah, it is. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Jack Kirby's greatest creation, Paste Pot Pete. It could be. See, Purple secretly she loves Dr. Doom, but she likes Paste Pot Pete even better.
It's true.
He's the best. He is. I mean, let's face it. The layers and layers on that villain.
I love ridiculous villains. It's so much fun.
That name is so silly that they had to change it. He changed them to the Trapster. So
the Trapster, yeah.
Do you prefer Trapster or Paste Pot Pete?
There, yeah, Paste Pot Pete. It just rolls off the tongue better. We were talking about alliteration.
Yes. Paste Pot Pete. So I want to thank you all again, everybody, for being here tonight. And we won't even just play out credits. We'll just simply tribute to Jack and
raise a glass to Jack. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Love you, Jack. I know you'll live on forever. Thank you so much. And we will play this tribute to Jack right here after these important messages. Anyway, here's our messages, and then we'll sign out with a little 2-second tribute to Jack. But first of all, I think Mr. Spock has something to say.
Your agonizer, please.
Okay. Wrong show, Spock. I mean, maybe it is.
Agonizer, please.
No, Mr. Spock.
Enough of that foolishness. Good night, everybody.